Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got yet another Alestral's deck profile for you. I've really been building my collection lately, mostly through trades with friends. Huge shout out to everyone who's helped me get all the cards that I need to build all of these decks here. And I'm actually coming decently close to completing like a 3 of every physical card collection that's currently in the game so far, which is really, really cool. So again, huge shout outs to the friends who've been helping me with trades and helping me just accomplish this. It's been awesome. So wanted to share another deck that I threw together. The main reason I haven't been doing more deck profiles, I know I had kind of like a 2-week gap, is because I spent a lot of time with Alestrals just playing the game, playing lists that other people had built, and getting more used to that. I wanted to build my confidence with the game overall before I started like throwing out a lot of my own brews. And admittedly, today's deck is more based on a brew that I've seen. One I've talked about extensively on the channel already. That's going to be the MONARCH deck. I am a huge fan of this deck, mostly because it features probably currently just my favorite card in the game of Alestrals, which is Arcalith. Again, we've talked about Alestrals, of course we have. We've talked about Monarch, so we've definitely covered Arcalith on this channel. But for those who don't know, Arcalith is a 2 Thunder Spirit Alestral with 6 attack, 4 defense. Like the other Lith cards, it can be cast normal cast with just 2 spirits if an opponent meets a certain condition. For Arcalith, they simply have to have 2 attack position Alestrals, which is very easy to fulfill. And the cool thing is, it's not like they have to have 2 more than you do, they just have to have 2. You could have like 3 monsters, and as long as they have 2 in attack mode, you can drop this down with just 2 Thunder Spirits. And also when you cast this Arcalith, you can enchant up to 3 Thunder from your underworld to your field. This is really cool because it lets you cast some invoke spells for free. It can let you get in some, ooh, sorry, I bumped the camera there. It can let you get in some big damage with the Arcalith swinging for 5. Or it can help pay for some counter runes. Or I'm going to show you with this particular build another potential spirit bank rather, that we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive right on in here with the star player of the deck, 3 Arcalith. Now, Monarch isn't necessarily always a Thunder deck, but I have built this particular iteration to be a little more, excuse me, Thunder-based than a lot of other builds. So, yeah, this is, again, namesake of the deck, my favorite card in Alestrals right now. And, of course, we call this Monarchs because this is pretty much so boring. We do have another quote-unquote Monarch, which is actually a Lith in the deck, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Yeah, I think I already talked about pretty much everything Arcalith is used for here. It's such a cool card. I love Arcalith. Like I said, my favorite card in the game right now. We have 3 Astrabid, of course, not just because we are playing a decent amount of Thunder, but because this is just the best Celestial in the game. But for our other Thunder 1-drops, we're actually playing 3 copies of Elechik. So, Elechik, for those who don't know, I have played this pretty extensively in Earth, but it's a 4/1 for 1 Thunder Spirit that says, when you normal cast this, you can search your deck for a Divine Rune and add it to your hand. I guess I'll just go ahead and show the Divine Rune we're getting now, but I'll talk about it a little more when we actually get to the runes section. That's going to be Zeus. Zeus is going to be our Elechik target. We're playing 2 of that. So I learned when playing Earth that Elechicking for a Divine Rune that can like swing battles in your favor is really, really good. Elechik for Demeter in Earth is like, was not only often my ideal turn 1 play, but even on turn 2, it was totally fine because you could just drop the Elechik, grab Demeter, which gives your Alestrals +3/+3, give the Elechik +3/+3, and then swing over their dude. Similarly here, we can grab Zeus, which gives their dudes -3/-3, which is arguably even a little bit better than buffing your dudes, right? And then using the Elechik and or other stuff to swing over theirs. So, that's like kind of the main thing that I think separates this Monarch build from a lot of others, that we're using the Elechik for the Zeus. And this was also the Spirit Bank that I alluded to earlier, because you can potentially use the Arcalith ability to put the Thunder Spirits on the Zeus instead of the Arcalith if you wanted to. It's a little bit safer to do that because the Arcalith is obviously, being an Alestral, a little more susceptible to removal. So those are all the Thunder Alestrals in the deck. We do have more Thunder cards that I'll talk about when we get to those. For Water, we've got 2 Smoltuga, as well as 2 Eddy. Those are our only Water Alestrals. Eddy, of course, is Eddy, just great. If you're already incidentally playing Water for pretty much any reason, then you should probably be playing a couple of Eddies if you have the room for it. Small Tuga, probably just another one of my favorite Alestrals in the game. It's got the same stats as Astrabbit, and instead of looking at your top 3 and getting one, you get to add any 1-cost fire Alestral. I do have to point this out because in my last Monarch video, I erroneously stated this could search Lavalith. I thought it could, which would be pretty broken, but it turns out if you actually look at the text here, I have an old version of Small Tuga. Because more recent Small Tugas that are printed, and just Alestrals with this ability in general, say they search your deck for an Alestral with a 1-cost Alestral with whatever, you know, spirit you're searching for. So that's why I was confused, but I have since learned the way. Yeah, God, if this could search Lavalith, it'd be so good. But we do still have a lot of really good search targets for the Small Tuga there. Speaking of Lavalith, for our Fire Alestrals, we are playing 1 copy of Lavalith. This is our other Monarch. And yeah, this is kind of like your, I mean, it's the Stalos in that it's fire, but in terms of its ability, it's more Mobius, right? So this one, I think pretty much everybody who plays this game knows Lavalith by this point. Obviously, the most prolific Lith, the one that got limited so far. I imagine other Liths are going to get hit too. The Lith cards in general are pretty good, but yeah, Lavalith being able to blow up runes, being a really solid body, and the condition being very easy to fulfill makes this card very good and definitely limit worthy. So for our other Fire Alestrals, we have 2 Astrabbit and a Nekruff. The Astrabbits and Nekruff are going to be our targets for the Small Tuga. Nekruff is literally just a 1 spirit with 5 attack. That's why we play that for a search target. And a lot of decks too, honestly, 2 Small Tuga, 1 Nekruff is like really good. A nice little engine there, because again, you get not only the 5 defense body of Small Tuga, which is very relevant, but then on either the next or just a potential follow-up turn, you have another 5 in the form of Nekruff to swing in with. And then we're also on 2 Astrabbit. It's kind of surprising to me how little play this card sees overall, but it does also, I feel like, kind of want to be in a certain type of deck. But this is an extremely good card. You can recycle your resources. I try to prioritize recycling cards as opposed to spirits, but putting spirits back with this is not bad either. I should probably actually be doing that more often. And much like the Small Tuga and Astrabbit, Astrabbit rather, the Astrabbit has that nice 2/5, most importantly 5 defense stat line. So there we go, there's all of our Alestrals. For runes, for Divine Runes, as I mentioned before, we're playing 2 Zeus. Zeus being not only just a great Divine Rune in general, like I mentioned before, giving -3/-3 to a targeted opponent's Alestral, but this is also another potential spirit bank for the Arcolith effect, right? As I alluded to before, you can often just throw the spirits onto Arcolith itself, but that can be a little bit risky sometimes, especially if your opponent has like a face down counter rune. If you try to swing and they like shield, or yeah, it can just be a little bit tricky sometimes. So the Zeus is another potential sort of bank for that. I would like to be able to Nexus this Thunder Energy. I think that'd be the next like step for this kind of a deck, but there's not really that many great Thunder Nexusing stuff right now. Obviously with Sparkit being banned and Sparkit Escape from Tartarus, the eroded version, not being legal yet, or I don't even think official at all yet. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that card once it comes out. I think that adds a lot to this kind of strategy, but for now, we're mainly just looking to put the Thunder Spirits on either Arcolith or Zeus, and then we have some cards that we're going to look at here in a moment that we can use to help spend those. But again, putting 3 on Arcolith to just beat for 5 is not bad. I've definitely won games doing that. And also putting 3 on a Zeus threatens a lot of Alestral removal in the upcoming turns, right? So yeah, it's a pretty solid addition for the deck. And like I said, also just a great card in general. Like Elechicking for this is a good turn 1 or 2 play. So for another Thunder Rune that we're playing, this is an Invoke. We're playing 2 copies of Thunderstorm. The previous iteration, my last build played 3, which I do think is a little bit too many, but the nice thing about Thunderstorm in this build, well, there's a few things, right? One, destroying runes is always good. It's just not really worth paying 2 Thunder Spirits for, right? A lot of Thunder-based decks, most of them in fact, wouldn't even side deck this card, let alone main it. But since our build is so heavily focused on the Arcolith, we get two good reasons why we want to play the Thunderstorms, right? Well, 2 aside from the fact that, again, destroying runes is good. But this is both setup and payoff for our Arcalith in this deck, right? Because Arcalith needs the Thunder Spirits in the yard to be able to enchant. So Thunderstorm lets us spend 2 of them, destroy a rune, clearing the way for the Arcalith before we summon it, and then we can just take those Thunder Spirits and put them right onto the Arcalith or onto the Zeus. But it's also payoff because if you've spent other cards to get those Thunder Spirits on the Arcalith or Zeus, and you have this in hand, now you can take 2 of those 3 spirits you enchanted from your Thunder World and use them to destroy a rune, effectively making Arcalith a better Lavalith in that situation. Granted, it took another card from your hand, so it's not like straight up comparable that way, but you know what I mean. So that's the idea behind playing Thunderstorm. I had tried 3 before, because again, in theory, this is both setup and payoff, so in theory, you always want to see it. But the thing is that in practice, like I said, 2 Thunder Spirits for destroying 1 rune is a lot. And if you don't have Arcalith, this by itself is just really not as good as a lot of other stuff. So back down to 2 copies for that. For other Invoke runes, we have the Earthquake. Earthquake is Earthquake. It's a good card, so we're playing it. Kind of like Astrabbit as well. And then for counter runes that are non-Omni, these are all the non-Omni runes. 2 copies of Tsunami. Obviously, great card. In a lot of cases, this can be worth playing water just for this, but we also have Small Tuga and then Eddy, so it's like, you know, no reason not to. Excuse me. So that's going to do it for all of the non-Omni runes. So for Omni runes for Invokes, we have 3 Ambro. I mean, it's an Alestral's deck, so of course it's going to have 3 Ambrosia in it. We are playing 3 copies of Nectar of the Gods, which was also featured in my last deck profile for Rhino Sect, which is kind of funny because I said in that deck profile, you know, not every Alestral's deck wants to just be playing Nectar of the Gods in general, let alone 3, and then here my next Alestral's deck profile is another deck that plays 3 Nog. But this is another one of our setup / payoffs for the Arcalith, you know, much like the Thunderstorm, right? So the Thunderstorm, again, as I mentioned before, is both setup and payoff in that it either sets up the spirits in your graveyard for Arcalith to put on the board, or it'll either use the Thunder Spirits that Arcalith put on the board to pop a rune. So here we get to do the same thing, right? But we'll do it to draw 2 cards with Nectar of the Gods. So this one, again, is better. It's better turn 1, obviously, because on turn 1 your opponent's not going to have any set runes, but also just drawing cards to get you into the Arcalith is good. As a result, this ends up being more used as setup more often, whereas in my experience, the Thunderstorm is the payoff more often. But again, you could go either way. I have had dream games where I load up 3 Thunder Spirits on the Arcalith, spend 2 of them on Nectar of the Gods, then spend another 1, as well as 1 from the Spirit deck for the Thunderstorm. It's so good. That's like the dream play of this deck, right? That's like kind of everything the deck's trying to do, all happening at the same time. So again, not every deck wants to play Nog, and certainly not 3, but this happens to be another one of those it does. Resting on your laurels, we're playing 1 copy of this. This is another one of those decks where you might think, is resting really good because of the Arcalith? The idea is that, you know, if we're in a situation where Arcalith has like a bunch of spirits on the field, then we're already doing pretty good. We don't need the resting. I will say in this build, with the Zeus, having a Divine Rune makes playing this a little bit more iffy, but I think it's still good enough. That's it for the Divine Invokes. The rest are... or not Divine, the Omni Invokes. These are Omni counters, which are going to be pretty standard stuff. We got 3 Gorgons, 3 PTA, and I'm also playing 3 Shield. I might not normally play 3 of each of these, but this is actually another payoff you can do with the Thunder Spirits on Arcalith, right? Like, especially if you don't have like the Nog or the Thunderstorm, you can just summon the Arcalith, hopefully swing in for 5, right? And then use 2 of those for like a Gorgons or a PTA on the follow-up turn is the idea, so. Alright, that's going to do it for the main deck. For our Spirit deck, we have quite a bit of different spirits here because we're playing so many different elements, of course. We have 9 Zaptor for our Thunder Spirits. We don't really play... It's funny because even in previous iterations of this deck where we played like far fewer Thunder cards, we'd still play about this many Thunder Spirits. because again, the idea is that you can either use Thunderstorm for setup, or if you like open Nog turn 1, you just dump 2 Thunders with this to set up your yard for Arcolith, right? But I mean, we don't play enough Thunder cards that I don't necessarily think we need more Thunder Spirits. Maybe one more. If I was gonna include one more Thunder Spirits, I don't know. I'd probably honestly cut a Water. We're playing 5 Water for 6 cards, 2 Eddy, 2 Smoltuga, 2 Tsunami, which you could definitely play 4 and be fine. In the Rhinosect build, I made a similar comparison where I was like, oh, you could cut a Water for another Frost, but I think the 6th Water is better than the 11th Frost. And I still think that for Rhinosect. For this deck, the 10th Thunder might actually just be better than the 5th Water here, right? So this is a build where I'm considering making that swap a little bit more heavily than in the Rhinosect build for the Spirit Math there. We're playing 4 Vipyro. I do think you need 4. It might sound a little weird because we only have 4 fire cards, right? The Ash Rabbits, the Necroth, and the Lavalith. But the Lavalith costing 2 fires, I think, is like pretty important to note. If I was just playing 4 1-cost fire cards, then yeah, I would play 3 Vipyro. Again, debatably, you could even go down to 2 in a situation like that, but because one of them is the Lavalith and you need to spend 2 on that, I decided to just play 4 here just to be safe. And then, of course, finally, 2 Turretless for the Earthquake. This is one of those builds where the 2 Turretless for the Earthquake I feel like does interfere with the Spirit Math a little bit. My previous build, I didn't play the Earthquake, I only played, you know, Thunder, Water, and Fire cards, but that is another way you could fix the Spirit Math if you really wanted to. I will say, though, I think that Earthquake is good enough that it's worth kind of screwing your Spirit Math up a little bit. But again, the main Spirit Math fix I think I would do is taking out a Water for a 10th Lightning there. But more testing is required before we make that decision for certain. So, yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Thanks for watching this video. Like I said, this guy, Uncolith. I love him so much. It's my favorite card. And as I mentioned in the Rhinosect deck profile, we have a lot more exciting Alestrals content upcoming. I do have a box that is given to creators that is on the way. So that honestly, we'll start taking a look at that probably within the next couple of days, I think it should be. But anyway, thanks as always for watching. This is Hexlex. I am signing out and also hoping that you have a fantastic day.